Alright, you guys have already graded your homework, so you should have already had time to work on the warm-up when the homework was being checked in. I'll give you another minute or so to finish that. Again, the question asks you to write an expression that could be used to represent the perimeter of a rectangle that is shown below, and then also make sure that it's simplified at the end. So we started talking about this yesterday when it came to combining like terms, and then today we're going to finish up with that along with distributive property. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, since this is a rectangle, I know that this side is parallel with this side and they're the same length. So I'm going to go ahead and label this side length 3 plus k. The top is going to be the same as the bottom, so I'm going to have 2 parentheses k plus 5. Okay, so I labeled my rectangle. Now I need to write an expression to simplify this perimeter. Well, again, perimeter means I'm adding up all of the side lengths. So I'm going to go ahead and write out all the side lengths added together. So I have 3 plus k, which takes care of this side, then plus 3 plus k, which takes care of this side, and then I have plus 2 parentheses k plus 5, and another plus 2 parentheses k plus 5. So I have all 4 sides added together. Next step here is I need to get rid of these parentheses. I need to simplify what I have. So if I look at what is inside parentheses, these are 2 different terms. It's k and then just a number, so I can't combine those. So we talked about this when we discussed PEMDAS or gems. How do I simplify this to get rid of the parentheses? I have to use distributive property or my rainbows. Okay, and what I'm going to do is distribute that 2 towards everything inside of the parentheses. Same thing for this. Distribute that 2 times everything in parentheses. So if I rewrite what I have, okay, everything falls down, 3 plus k plus 3 plus k plus, and now I have 2 times k is 2k, 2 times 5 is plus 10, 2 times k is plus 2k, 2 times 5 is plus 10. So I simplified already because I got rid of those parentheses. So the next step that I have to look for is, can I combine anything in this long expression? So let's go ahead and start with just the k's. Here's 1k. I'm going to put a 1 in front as well. Always circle the sign in front. Here's another k, so another 1k, 2k, and 2k. So if I add up all the k's, I have 1 plus 1 is 2, plus another 2 is 4, plus another 2 is 6k. So your answer should have 6k in the answer. Okay, I can also look to combine the other, just the numbers. 3 plus 3 is 6, plus 10 is 16, plus another 10 is 26. So your answer for the perimeter of this rectangle is 6k plus 26. Raise your hand if you got that. Alright, very good. So this is what we're going to talk about more today with this distributive property. I'm going to show you some more challenging problems and how it could be asked on the EOC. So let's go ahead and get your journals out to the next page. Go ahead and head your journal, Distributive Property. Today is August 26th, and this is page 7 for me. Go ahead and remember filling your table of contents, whatever page number you're on. And then we will go ahead and get started. So let's discuss why we have distributive property, what reasoning, and so forth. So say I have 3 parentheses 4 plus 8. There's really 2 ways of solving this. Okay, I can use gems, and in that case I have to simplify what's in the grouping symbols first. So 4 plus 8 is 12. I simplified that down to one number. And my last step here is I'd multiply 3 times 12, which is 36. Okay, or we can use distributive property and get the same exact thing. So if I have the original problem, 3 parentheses 4 plus 8. Okay, I can distribute that 3 towards everything in the parentheses. So I end up having 3 times 4 plus 3 times 8. And again, using gems, I need to multiply first before I add them together. So I'm going to multiply 3 times 4 is 12, plus 3 times 8 is 24. When I add 12 and 24 together, I end up getting 36. So you end up getting the same answer whether you use gems or you use distributive property. However, why do we even need this if we can just use gems? Well, when we get to something where instead of this 4 is a variable, like this, 3x plus 8 in parentheses, can I combine these two in parentheses? No, they're not like terms. This is a variable of x, this doesn't have a variable. So when it comes to this, the way we simplify is we have to use distributive property. I would take that number that's attached to the parentheses and I would multiply it times everything inside. So this would look 3 times x is just 3x. 3 times 8 is 24. I can't simplify that anymore because they're not like terms, so that would be my simplified expression. Okay, so that's the reasoning why we have distributive property, is because now, instead of all numbers, we're going to have different variables in there. Let's go ahead and define distributive property. And again, I'm going to write my definition and you can edit it based off of how you best understand it. Okay, distributive property, I'm going to say you can multiply a number by the sum or multiply by each number, or it could be a variable, in parentheses. Give you a second to write that down. Distributive property is you can multiply a number by the sum, which is what we did here. I added this up, then I multiplied. Or we can multiply each number or variable in the parentheses, which would be our distributive property over here. Now when it comes to, I'm going to go ahead and highlight that because I want to make sure I can find that easily in my notes when I get back to it. When we get to other types of rules that are in algebra, they like to show it algebraically. So you're going to see a lot of rules similar to this where they just use letters to represent any quantity. So if I have A parentheses B plus C, to show the distributive property rule, they would show you arrows. And the second part of this, if I distribute A times B, it would look like this, plus A times C. So this algebraic way of writing the rule out, you'll see quite often when it comes to algebra. So let's go ahead and get started. I know some of this is just review, but we're going to get a little bit more challenging than what you've seen in the past. So let's start off easy. Let's do 3 parentheses 6 plus 2a parentheses. Okay, what number am I going to distribute here? I'm going to distribute that 3. How many times am I going to distribute that? I'm going to distribute it 2 times because there's 2 terms inside the parentheses. My answer should probably have two terms. It's going to have a's and it's just going to have a number. So 3 times 6 here is 18. 3 times 2a is positive 6a. Now that's not in standard form. Remember we talked about standard form is when we have the variables in alphabetical order first and then the numbers. So my answer here in standard form is 6a plus 18. Let's try another one with a fraction. Let's have 1/2 parentheses 4x plus 8 plus 10y. Now as you're working on this, go ahead and work on this. I want you to be able to answer what number am I going to distribute, how many times am I going to be distributing, and how many terms are in my final answer, or my final simplified expression. So again, what number am I going to be distributing here, how many times am I distributing it, and how many terms am I going to have in my final answer. So the number you're going to be distributing here is 1/2. And you're going to be distributing it 3 times because you're going to distribute to the 4x, the 8, and the 10y. So once I decide that, now I'm going to actually multiply. Half of 4x is 2x. Half of 8 is 4. Half of 10y is 5y. Now, can I add any of these together? Can I combine like terms? I have x's, I have numbers, and I have y's. So I am completely done there. I can't simplify that anymore. However, I can rewrite that in standard form, which is alphabetical order and then numbers at the end. So I have 2x plus 5y plus 4. That would be my simplified answer to this expression. Okay, pretty easy so far. I'm sure you guys are doing wonderful. I want you to work on this one next. -5 parentheses x minus 3 parentheses -2x. Once you get your answer, I want you to check with someone around you to see if they get the same answer. Take a minute to work on this one. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and distribute this -5 to both terms inside of the parentheses. So -5 times 1x is -5x. -5 times -3. Remember, we keep the sign in front. So -5 times -3 makes a positive 15. What happens to this -2x? Just falls down. Okay, so I just keep that there. Now I look to simplify. This is where a lot of people last year made mistakes, is they just stopped there and didn't do anything else. However, this is not the answer. It's not simplified all the way. So I'm looking at, can I combine anything? Do I have any like terms? And I do. I have the x's. Circle the sign in front. So if I look at the x's, I can add -5x and -2x to give me -7x. And that positive 15 just falls down. So your answer should have been -7x plus 15. Okay, let's get a little bit more challenging. Then we'll have a couple more. Let's do -4 parentheses x plus 2 parentheses -7x plus 3. Go ahead and work on that one. Check with the people around you to see if you got it correct once everyone's done. As you're still working, the first step you should have done was distribute that -4 to get rid of those parentheses. So I should have -4 times x is -4x, -4 times 2 is -8, and then this -7x falls down, and this 3 falls down as well. So my next step is to look at what I can combine, if I can combine like terms. So I have -4x and -7x. When I add those two together, I get -11x. And then that leaves me with just my numbers, and I can combine those for -8 and +3, which ends up giving me -5. So my answer here is -11x minus 5. Okay, hopefully we're doing pretty well on this. We're going to get a little bit more challenging, and I'm going to show you some ways that the EOC could trick us. I'm going to go to the next page so I have more room. 3 more examples, and then you're going to have an exit ticket, which is going to be a quiz, okay, over this. So make sure right now you're asking questions and making sure you're paying attention very closely. So let's try this one. -3. Parentheses 4c plus 6, parentheses, minus 5, parentheses, x plus c. So, if you answer these questions as I'm asking them, I'm actually distributing 2 numbers here. What would those 2 numbers be? Okay, you should have said -3 is going to go to this first parentheses, and then I'm going to distribute -5 to the second parentheses. So as I work this out, I just go from left to right. -3 times 4c is -12c. -3 times 6 is -18. Again, use your calculator if you need to. -5 times x is -5x, and -5 times c is -5c. So now I'm looking at, can I combine any of these like terms? So let's start off with c's. -12c, and I can't combine that, can't combine that. I can combine this last one. So -12c and -5c gives me -17c. Then -18 is just a number that's by itself, so that just falls down. And also -5x is by itself, so that falls down. So my answer here would just be that. Now that's not in standard form, so you can write it in standard form. But that's how we would simplify something like that. If I have 2 sets of parentheses, I need to make sure I'm distributing that number in front of it for each one. Okay, let's see how many of you I can trick for this next one. Let's do 3 minus parentheses 6x plus 2. Go ahead and take a second to solve that. I'm going to see how many of you guys can get it right. Okay, so again, first question you should ask yourself is, to simplify this and get rid of the parentheses, what number am I going to be distributing here? And you should have saw that there's really a -1 sitting in front of that parentheses. They don't write it there because they don't have to, but this negative sign means that there is a number there, so -1, that's the number I'm going to be distributing towards everything in the parentheses. So this 3 just falls down. -1 times 6x is -6x, and -1 times 2 is -2. So now I can simplify. I just have my numbers, so positive 3 and negative 2. 3 minus 2 is 1. And that 6x is just going to fall down. Negative 6x, sorry. I'm going to put that in front so it's in standard form. So negative 6x plus 1 would be my answer. Okay, so even though it's not written there, you have to know if that's a negative sign, there is a 1 right behind it. It represents negative 1. Let's try one last one, nice and long, and see how many of us can get it. I'll give you a couple minutes on this one. Miss Osborne will pause it for you. So if I have 4 parentheses, negative 2a plus 6 parentheses, plus a plus 5 parentheses, negative 2a plus 6 parentheses, minus 7 parentheses, a plus 2 parentheses. Go ahead and solve that. Miss Osborne will pause the video for you, so you'll have some time to work on that, and let's see how many of you guys can get the correct answer. Totally simplified all the way. Again, 4 parentheses, negative 2a plus 6, plus a plus 5, parentheses, negative 2a plus 6, minus 7, parentheses, a plus 2. Go ahead and work on that. Miss Osborne will pause it, and when everyone's done, she'll push play. Okay, so lots of things going on here. This first set of parentheses I need to get rid of, so I'm going to distribute the 4 to that one, and I'm going to go sort of right at the same time that I say it. So 4 times negative 2a is negative 8a. 4 times 6 is a positive 24. This a falls down. Now I need to get rid of this second parentheses, so this positive 5 has to be distributed. So 5 times negative 2a is negative 10a. 5 times 6 is a positive 30. And then I need to get rid of this last set of parentheses, so I'm going to distribute that. Negative 7 times a is negative 7a. Negative 7 times 2 is negative 14. So you had 3 things you were distributing here, 6 rainbows total. So if you got that, perfect. You should get the correct answer. Although, we'll find out. So A's, let's circle our A's. There's negative 8a, a positive 1a, negative 10a, and negative 7a. So I'm going to go ahead and write those all out. Negative 8a plus 1a minus 10a minus 7a. And you should be checking your work, making corrections if you didn't get to this point. And then over here I have positive 24 plus 30 minus 14. So 24 plus 30 minus 14. I'm going to go ahead and enter that all in my calculator, which I already did. Negative 8 plus 1 minus 10 minus 7. You ended up getting negative 24a. 24 plus 30 minus 14 would give you positive 40. So your answer here is negative 24a plus 40. Raise your hand if you got that. Fantastic. If not, make sure you have that written down so you can go back and look at that. And you're going to be using your notes on this exit ticket, so you want to make sure you have all the correct answers written down. So, in one quick second, Miss Osborne will be passing out your exit ticket, which means it's due as you leave class. You cannot take it home with you to finish. You only have the amount of time left in class. Okay, it's 6 questions. There's enough room on here where you can show your work, except maybe the last 2 you might have to use the back, so make sure you show me your work. You may use highlighters, colored pencils, whatever you need to use, but make sure your answers and all your work is in pencil, and make sure your name and class period's on it. You're going to turn this into your periods tray as you leave, or if you finish before the bell rings, just turn it into the tray and sit down quietly. Make sure your calculators are put back, as well as everything in your pencil pouch. Your highlighters, your red pens, your glue sticks, all of your colored pencils. Those are yours for the year, so do not lose those. Okay, good luck, and we will see you next week. Have a good weekend.